It's Monday, July 15th, 2024, and this is the Climate One newsletter. I'm producer and editor Austin Colon.
And I'm producer and production manager Megan Basilia.
Have you listened to our most recent episode, Local Climate Heroes with Project Drawdown? It's about how there are climate heroes everywhere among us, but few get the public attention they deserve. Matt Scott, Director of Storytelling and Engagement at Project Drawdown, has been shining a light on the work of climate activists in cities across the country in his documentary short series Drawdown's Neighborhood. He's gone to Atlanta, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, the San Francisco Bay Area, and more, and featured voices of people working directly in their communities on climate issues. This week, we feature some of those voices in front of a live audience at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco. You can listen now on climateone.org or wherever you get your pods.
And speaking of live events, Climate One has a few exciting ones coming up soon, so pull up your calendars now. The first one is August 27th at 6 p.m. at the Commonwealth Club, featuring the billionaire investor and climate organizer, Tom Steyer. He'll be in conversation with Climate One host Greg Dalton, and they'll talk about politics, money, and power. That's Tuesday, August 27th. Then, on September 16th at 6 p.m., environmental icon Jane Goodall returns to Climate One to reflect back on her life's work. She'll also talk about how we can heal our relationship with nature by better understanding ourselves. She'll be joined by Greg and Rhett Butler, founder of the nonprofit media organization Manga Bay. That's at the Sidney Goldstein Theater on Monday, September 16th.
And that same week, on Wednesday, we'll be joined by Justin Pearson. You may know Justin as one of the legislators who was kicked out of the Tennessee House for protesting in support of common sense gun regulation. He's also a strong advocate for climate and environmental justice. The Sierra Club recognized him as the 2023 National Changemaker of the Year. He'll talk about all that with Greg at the Commonwealth Club, and that's on Wednesday, September 18th.
Tickets for all of these events can be purchased at climateone.org.
Here's what we're reading this week. Residents of nearly every state in the United States are under excessive heat alerts as temperatures climb over triple digits in locations from Idaho to New Jersey. Already, at least 28 people have died directly as a result of extreme heat. Similarly, brutal heat waves have impacted nations around the world throughout the year, and scientists have concluded that human-caused climate change has increased the rate at which such dire hot spells occur. Heat also compounds the danger of other natural disasters, like wildfires and hurricanes, and those are exacerbated by human emissions. For example, in Houston, 1 million people have been left without power by Hurricane Beryl, suffering through dangerous heat without access to refrigeration or air conditioning. Rising sea temperatures, another consequence of climate change, helped Beryl intensify into the earliest Category 5 storm in Atlantic history. Last week, President Biden announced his administration's intentions to create the first ever national heat threshold, and that would require employers to protect workers if temperatures rise above 80 degrees. And there is currently no federal excessive heat standard, so state and local governments cannot access federal emergency funds to respond to heat waves. And at least 986 workers have died due to excessive heat from 1992 to 2022. At present, just a handful of states have their own heat regulations for workplaces, and Republican administrations in states like Texas and Florida have explicitly prohibited local governments from implementing their own heat standards.
We're actually developing an episode about this right now, and we want to hear your story for it. Do you work outside, in a kitchen, in a warehouse, or somewhere else where you're feeling the heat? How have rising temperatures impacted the way you work? Please send us an email at climateone@climateone.org or leave us a voicemail at 650-382-3869 and let us know how climate change is affecting you on the job, and we may use it in that upcoming episode. Thanks. Here's what else we're reading. From the New York Times, Tesla's share of U.S. electric car market falls below 50%. From Time, we're living in a nightmare, inside the health crisis of a Texas Bitcoin town. From the Texas Tribune, Permian Basin oil truckers protest unpaid hours and lack of restrooms. From Bloomberg, China's batteries are now cheap enough to power huge shifts. You can find links to all these stories in our online newsletter. Subscribe at climateone.org or find us on LinkedIn.
All right, now time to connect the dots. In 2021, Google made waves when it announced that the company would go net zero by 2030. Yet just 3 years later, the corporation is again turning heads, but for the wrong reasons. An emissions reductions progress report issued by Google shows that its emissions have actually increased by 48% since 2019, The company attributes the bulk of its new emissions to its work with artificial intelligence. And while the technical progress of generative software like ChatGPT and Midjourney have been astounding, so too has the amount of electrical use required by these new tools. With Silicon Valley's push into AI showing no signs of slowing, Climate One spoke with 4 industry experts to better understand the climate risks posed by the sector. You can find that episode in the podcast feed now. Look for Artificial Intelligence, Real Climate Impacts.
One more thing. Is there an outstanding climate communicator in your life? Nominations are now open for Climate One's annual Stephen H. Schneider Award for Outstanding Climate Science Communication. Anyone can submit a name for consideration, regardless of whether you personally work in the climate field. Past winners include Katherine Hayhoe, Robert Bullard, Ben Santer, and Naomi Oreskes. Submissions are now open through July 31st. Submit a name today at climateone.org.
And that's it for the Climate One audio newsletter.
Thank you for listening.